Good morning, everyone. My name is MightyStream. Today is July the 26th. July the 26th. What a wonderful day it is. I am brought to you by Hope Through Navigation. This is the Hood Recovery Services, and you can reach out to me at recoveryofhope21@gmail.com. Well, let's go ahead and get into our Just for Today NA meditation. Oh, unconditional surrender. Help for addicts begins only when we are able to admit complete defeat. This can be frightening, but it is the foundation on which we have built our lives. Basic text, page 22. Most of us have tried everything we can think of, exerted every ounce of force possible to fill the spiritual hole inside us. Nothing, not drugs, not control and management, not sex, money, property, power, or prestige has filled it. We are powerless. Our lives are unmanageable, at least by ourselves alone. Our denial will not change that fact. So we surrender. We ask a higher power, to care for our will and our lives. Sometimes in surrendering, we don't know that a power greater than ourselves exists, which can restore us to wholeness. Sometimes we're not sure that the God of our understanding will care for our unmanageable lives. Our lack of certainty, though, does not affect the essential truth. We are powerless. Our lives are unmanageable. We must surrender. Only by doing so can we open ourselves wide enough for our old ideals and past wreckage to be cleared, wide enough for a higher power to enter. Just for today, I will surrender unconditionally. I can make it as easy or as hard as I choose. Either way, I will do it. Unconditional surrender. That would have been a good one for the spiritual principle of day, too. I like this. I like this meditation. Today is July 6th. This is my pop's birthday. He's deceased now. But July 6th was the day that he was born. In, I want to say 1936 or 37. I want to say 1936. And he knew a lot about surrender. He knew a lot about unconditional surrender. He was one of us. He most certainly was. He was one of us, and over a period of time, because of his failing health, um, well, he tried to stop using many times. He liked the liquid drugs. He tried to stop drinking those liquid drugs for often, and he'd get some time, and it's amazing. It's amazing how anonymous his program actually was. It wasn't until I started um, doing some work for the local Alano Club that I found out that he was someone that a few people knew. So he worked a very anonymous program. I don't think anyone in our family was aware of it. And it wasn't until many years later, let's say maybe like 2017 or 2019, when I started working there in the office, that I realized that he was an anonymous member. Yeah, and he knew a lot about unconditional surrender. He sure did. And I think that, the point that I'm making is that it can be easy or it can be hard. Surrender can be easy. We can go out with a fight, dragging our nails through the dirt the whole way through, or we can surrender quietly, which is what my pops had to do. It says here, we are powerless, we are unmanageable, and we must surrender. No and, ifs, or buts about it. If you're in the fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous, you have probably, like me, had moments of unconditional surrender, more moments of surrender, but a few sparkled here and there of unconditional surrender. And usually, when the pain got great enough, the unconditional surrender, the willingness to unconditionally surrender increases when the pain is great enough. And that's why I said sparkled here and there probably were these instances of I can't anymore. I am truly powerless. My life is unmanageable, and I have to take my hands off this situation completely. Either that or I'm gonna hurt myself, hurt someone else, or both. Right? Because when we're trying to fix, manage, and control and things are not lining up, the disease of addiction kicks in, right? A one is too many and 1,000 is never enough. So even though I am seeing that this is an unmanageable situation, even though there are signs that I really do not have any power over this situation, right? There's something that now that I've already got my hands in it. Come on, somebody. I know I'm on it today. I have my hands in it, right? My blueprint is on it, right? Now, all of a sudden, there's something that is invested. My pride, my energy, my time, my money, my body, my thoughts, right? My spirit. There is so much that I've already invested in this that it becomes a game. I must win. I must come out on top. This situation will not expose me as failing, as a failure, as a loser. This situation will not take me down. I already have invested all of who I am into this. Do you think at the few signs of difficulty that I'm about to turn and run and go the other way, I'm going to completely unconditionally surrender this situation to the God of my understanding? I don't think so. I'm too invested. See, now this, come on, work with me, because this is where our pride, right? This is where our, how did my friend put it? She said, our false, right? Our self-righteousness gets in the way. Right? This is where we are committed, right, to something that has already given us proof that it is not worth our energy on that level. It is not worth going crazy over. Right? It has already shown us repeatedly that we are not in control of that. But because we've already started, the one is too many, because we have already picked it up, the obsession and control, right? The obsession and compulsion is what I want to say. Kicks in. And now this is where it becomes repetitive, the too many, the 1,000. It repeats itself over and over and over like a vicious cycle. And this is where the 1,000 is never enough. For some reason, we keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. We truly believe that we can beat it this time. And after it has beaten us down again, we say, okay, I think I should have said it different. I should have did it different. I should have hit it different. I should have worked it different. I should have played it different. And our mind is unwilling to accept defeat. That's pride, and it's false pride. So, what is it? What is it that I'm holding on to? What is it that I'm fighting unconditional surrender about? What is it? There's always something. There's always something that we always should be able to see the truth in the situation. Mhm. It may not be as intense as what I made it sound, because maybe you've been around a while and you have these spiritual principles that you, for the most part, are working in all your affairs. And you've gotten to the point where you don't lie, you don't cheat. If you do lie or cheat, it's very infrequently. It's in the face of fear of the unknown that you might tell a little lie. You might omit the truth just a little bit, but the weight of it is so minuscule. Like you're the only one that it will ever even matter to you and your God, right? So it's so minor. These shortcomings are so small, so minuscule that they're not really as bad as they used to be when you first came around. But that doesn't excuse us from making another commitment to unconditional surrender. If you lie just a little bit, you still lie, right? You cheat just a little bit, you still cheat. I mean, and when I say cheat, I'm using that as a very general term. You could be cheating on your mate, you could be cheating in your finances, you could be, it's so many ways you can cheat, right? What it is that it's who you are. There's a piece of you that is holding on to the shortcomings because you consider the character defect. You actually still have this thought in your head that it is a survival tactic. It's a part of your survivor instinct, right? And you still believe that. I'm one of those people that, I have this ideal of what holiness is, perfection. I have this ideal. And so I obsess with trying to make every situation perfect. I was in a meeting with some friends. We were thinking about an event down the road that we're having, and it involves a lot of young people. And of course, it'd be my first year. Last year I was too unwell to even show up, and I was not a part of staff, right? So I was thinking, well, why is it's so disorganized, basically? Because if we're in charge, right, then we should have a plan for breaking all of these young people apart and giving them basically the instructions that they need to follow, right? And so it kicked me back to when I was living in Kenya and I started a business for young people. And I started thinking about how many hours I worked that program. Every weekend we were servicing easily every weekend. And this is no exaggeration. From the point of inception of the business until the time that I left, every weekend we serviced easily 400 easily, and that's a low number, young people ranging from, you know, sixth grade all the way up to the university level. We were visiting schools and colleges every weekend, bringing fun and entertainment and God into their life for weekend. I call them conferences, right? We would have these conferences and they would be blowing up our phone to come and bring this energy to their schools. And I went back to those days and I just started obsessing with how I can make that better, how I can do this. And you know what? It's not even my responsibility. That's not something that is for me to do, right? What I'm doing is not even closely related to the young people. But my mind said, man, maybe I could perfect this one more time. I started obsessing over something that is not even in my scope of responsibility. Can I make suggestions? Absolutely. Can I be a part of the team? Absolutely. But it's not the scope of my responsibility. Right? But I was ready to get all in, and a couple of the staff people started yeah, I like to see you try that. Right? Kind of sarcastically, as if organization and helping young people to understand boundaries of where they can be was unheard of. It's not, right? It's not. And so maybe over time I'll be able to share some of those things that I did in Kenya. But I guess people have to, believe in you and trust in you before they're willing to take that. Because hundreds of children every weekend, yeah, that was an accomplishment. But I was obsessing. Oh, I was obsessing. And then someone said, you need to let that go. Surrender that. That's not even in your scope. And you ready to have an attitude because nobody thinks that organization on that level is going to work with young people. It will if you let them know the conditions with which they can participate in your program of what you have to offer. Absolutely, they will. Right? But I took my hands off of it because I wasn't too obsessed. I'm a perfectionist. That's the point that I'm making. What is it that you still are beating a dead horse over? And why haven't you surrendered unconditionally? Because we're too invested. We are so invested in things that are not within our scope of responsibility. And because we have been able to get away with it without anyone checking us about our obsession and compulsion about a situation or situations, without checking us about our mannerisms, our tendencies, our behaviors, because these are things that are usually not seen by other people unless we bring it to their attention or someone else tells on us, right? We think that I know I'm gonna let it go for right now, but in 1 month I'm gonna revisit this. This is gonna work out the way I need it to be because I'm so invested. And the reason why, again, that we get to be so invested is because nobody knows what's going on behind the scenes. We have not become vulnerable enough to disclose our levels of obsession or insanity to other people. And I don't want that for you. I don't want that for myself. Almost immediately when I started to see the feedback of other people on the team in a negative light, like joking about my belief that it could be improved upon, immediately I said, oh, you've spent all those years perfecting the system, but this is not the same system. And you're going to end up having your feelings hurt if you don't pull yourself back, your energy back from something that was never given to you. And I did immediately. And the whole context, the whole atmosphere changed as soon as I withdrew my energy from that. And that's what we have to do. That's just such a small example. And I'm cutting down the distance. You know what I'm doing? I'm cutting down the distance between knowing and doing. You can know that you need to do something, but the ability to do it and how quickly you can act on that there should be a shorter distance with time, because you have learned the wisdom, right? In that serenity prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That serenity prayer is so 11th step. It's so 11th step. And over time, you begin to learn through wisdom what the difference is. And wisdom is the appropriate application of knowledge. So God grant me, right, the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. But where does that come from? Knowing the difference. You have to know what you can change and what you can't change before you can accept that you can't even change it, or that you can change it. And after you get that level of acceptance, it's going to take some courage to be able to effecate that, to actually do it. And that's what I'm talking about. The difference or the distance between knowing and doing has to be reduced. And the sooner you can reduce that distance, right? The sooner you can do that, the happier you will be. People will be like, oh, something is different about you. Yeah, I'm not trying to fix, manage, or control stuff that's not in my scope. It's not for me to control other people. If you have babies that you're raising, those are within your responsibility, right? If you have people that are living in your home, even if they're paying you for the room in your home or contributing some rent money, they don't own your home. They're in your home, and there should be some standards that have been set for them to be there, right? So you do control that even to an extent. But outside of that, outside of children, or you know what I'm saying, people that are in your atmosphere benefiting from what you own, you don't have any control. And our powerlessness is absolute. Our unmanageability should be obvious. And those should be the two forces that come together that convince us that we need unconditional surrender. Unconditional surrender, if you're dealing with the military, two opposing countries. Let's talk about Russia and the Ukraine. Russia wants the Ukrainians to unconditionally surrender. We don't want to have to kill you, but if you would unconditionally surrender, that means that you give over your power, throw your hands up and drop to your knees, and you are assimilated back into Russia. You are assimilated back into our realm of authority. No and, ifs, or buts, none of that. You unconditionally surrender. A surrender is different because that means that you fought. You fought to stay separate from or to have authority. You fought and you lost. And because so much bloodshed has happened or so much damage has had to happen before you could actually surrender, you were taken by force, really, right? You had no choice. You were left without a prayer, right? The cost is higher. The consequence for that is higher. The damage is greater. And therefore, because now everything around you has had to suffer damage due to your unwillingness to unconditionally surrender, you went down with such a fight. You probably lost your children. You probably lost your mate. You probably lost your job. You probably lost all sense of dignity and trust with other human beings. And so now, because the damage is so much higher, it's going to take a little bit longer for you to get back to ground zero. Because you wouldn't unconditionally surrender everything, your infrastructure has been blown apart, blown to bits, bombed relentlessly by life, right? Because when you put up a fight about something that you have no power over, that fight that's in you, that resistance that's in you, that pride that's in you, causes extensive damage because you're fighting a losing battle. And that's what the disease of addiction is, which I don't think the Ukrainians are fighting a losing battle, but that's the example because they are holding on to their democracy, right? Putin has to blow their infrastructure apart to make the damages higher so that they feel like they can't survive without Russia, right? In a sense, the correlation is that because we choose to surrender by force to the disease of addiction, the level of damage that takes place, we are ravaged by the lower destructive power. We are ravaged by the disease of addiction. And when we're ravaged, eventually we submit. That's what we should call some of our surrender, is that we submitted. we we could not. You ever play that game called Uncle, where you put your hand, grip your hands with somebody else, and you try to bend their fingers backwards, and when they cry uncle, they have submitted to your superior strength. And that's how we are about the disease of addiction. And all I'm saying is today, please, 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 oh my gosh, please, unconditionally surrender. Look at the areas in your life that you have not done that. And please, please do that. I want for you to, before you get up and start moving about, hopefully you're just sipping coffee and looking at this just for today and thinking about what unconditional surrender in times of war looks like. And hopefully you grab that example. And I want you to, when we get done with this, I want you to take a moment of silence. Matter of fact, you could be setting your timer on your phone for 5 minutes. I want you to set your timer for 5 minutes. When I get done with this, and I'll say, start your timer now, I want for you to take 5 minutes of meditation, and let that meditation reveal to you the things that you are not willing to surrender. Because if you're anything like me, 5 minutes is not enough of meditation time for the racing thoughts to stop. Usually somewhere into about 5 or 6 minutes, the racing thoughts will stop. But this 5 minutes is going to help you because it's going to give you an idea of what it is you are still refusing to surrender to. Okay? I have no idea how long I have been taping, but I am going to go ahead and set this up. I'm going to stop this share. And remember that the end goal is for you to surrender unconditionally. That's the end game. But the purpose of this 5 minutes of meditation is for you to sit back and watch your racing thoughts. And when you see them, I want you to just say, I see you, or just say something like, noted. And I guarantee you, in those 5 minutes, you are going to see the things that you are, even when you're sleeping, your spirit is still obsessing over them. And I want to say to you, right? I know you can do it. I believe in you. I believe you're getting better, right? I want to say that we are responsible for what we know. So if you come forward to today and you have only been surrendering or submitting, okay, that's fine. But today we're going to start something different. We're going to unconditionally surrender. And we're going to practice it, just like yesterday, right? Practice maturity and grace. We're going to practice unconditional surrender until we get it so right that every moment, every day that we encounter anything outside of ourselves and our sphere of responsibility, we are going to be able to unconditionally surrender so quickly the thought of control. We're not going to obsess and be compulsive. We're not going to even pick up one. And we are going to know the difference. We are going to notice the change. Let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to go to stop share. Hopefully you have your timer set for 5 minutes. And I am going to sit here with you for 5 minutes. And when the 5 minutes is up, I will come back in and end. You will no longer hear my voice. Close your eyes and let's begin. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, count to 3, 1, 2, 3, blow out, breathe in, let's begin. Bring yourself forward. The 5 minutes has completed. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Wow. Congratulations. Those will probably be the most powerful 5 minutes you have spent besides prayer in your day, because you have just seen your racing thoughts. You have just seen your obsession and compulsive nature about certain situations. And these are the very things that you walk away with as gifts from your higher power today, because these are the very things that you are obsessing about, and you need to practice unconditional surrender. You have your marching orders for today. Go forward into this day empowered. The power of knowledge of what you need to let go of, and make today the beginning of the new you. Because what you have power over is yourself. Make today the beginning of the new, unconditionally surrendered version of you. Start cutting those ties on those situations that were revealed. And I guarantee you, but if you do this consistently every day, your whole life, your energy, everything about you will be markedly improved. My name is MightyStream. I have enjoyed this time with you. Make it a beautiful day on purpose. And I will be talking to you